In the morning, the Earl said that his man should wait there, and that he would go alone and spy to see what he could find out. He went to a place where he found a small village. In one house, he found a woman, and he spoke to the woman, saying that she should give him her headscarf and her cloak. And he gave her a gold ring and his good cloak. He took the scarf and put it on his head, and he put the woman's cloak on, and he went to the castle rather late in the day, and the gate was open. He turned to the hall where the queen resided, and he went in to the women. And when he was inside, a woman asked who this woman was, who calls herself Heppa. The queen remembered that she had often heard of Heppa, the traveling woman we call the vagabond woman. She was supposed to have been the greatest of whores. She was also supposed to be the largest of women, so that no man was taller or stronger. And because of these things, the Earl had assumed her name. Many girls spoke with the woman and enjoyed it, and it seemed curious that this woman had come. Lady Herborg went to her and spoke to her happily, just as the other girls had. "Tell me, how many men have you had in one night?" And the woman thought she couldn't answer this courteously in French, as would be fitting for a princess. So she held up all her fingers above her head. And the princess and all the girls laughed. And from this, the lady thought she knew how many men he had with him, and the other girls thought she had had 10 men in one night. A little later, the lady took apples and gave one to each of the women there. And when she had given them all an apple, she tossed one to the vagabond woman. She took the apple and cut it open and ate it just like the other women who were there. Inside she found a letter folded up. And he now thought he could be sure that the lady had recognized him. He stood up and went away, bade the princess farewell, along with all the others. The queen took a large good shirt and a handkerchief and gave it to her, and then they parted. He read the letter as soon as he could, and it said in the letter that the lady would come that night to him in the place they had agreed upon. And the Earl went back to his men and remained there the night. Around midnight, they heard where 2 were riding, and one of them spoke when they came out of the thicket. "Are you here, my dearest life, or what is the matter?" And the Earl answered, "Here I am with my knights." And the Earl sprang up and went to see her and put his arms around her neck and kissed her. He called out that his knights should prepare their horses as quickly as possible. And when Apollonius got on his horse with his lady, and all his knights were ready, the Earl spoke to the woman who had come with her there and asked who she was. She said she was a humble woman from the castle. and the Earl took the cloak Herborg had given him and gave it to the woman. He gave her a letter and bade her give it to the queen, and she did so. The queen was sorrowful and grieved that her daughter had left. In this letter, it said that Herborg would not be unhappy because her daughter had had good fortune. She is in Tira with Earl Apollonius. And so this whole affair became known. The Earl rode home with everyone together. Everyone became happy, first in Tira, and then with Earl Iron and his people. Earl Apollonius spoke with the lady and said that he wished to marry her. She asked him to wait and sent men to King Solomon and to settle with him, and thus their choice would be more honorable. The Earl wished to do nothing but what she wished. When King Solomon heard this news, he took it very badly. And when the lady had been in Tira a month, the messengers were with King Solomon, saying that Earl Apollonius wished to settle. King Solomon welcomed his proposal and stipulated where they should meet and reach a settlement. When the messengers returned to Tira, Lady Herborg was very sick, and a few days later she died. And this brought an end to the settlement. And from then on, there was ill will between Earl Apollonius and his brother Earl Iron on the one side, and King Solomon on the other. Earl Iron of Brandinaborg was always hunting game with his dogs and hawks. He was so dedicated to hunting that he was often in the forest for 7 nights, or 9 nights, or 12 days without coming back to his castle. He rode far through the deserted borderlands. His wife Isolde did not like this, because he often traveled carelessly and had stayed at home with her only a short time, but he was away a long time. It happened one time that the Earl prepared himself and his men to chase game. He had his expedition prepared to stay away 12 days. Isolde, his wife, heard about this, and she said, "Sir, you do ill in your constant desire to hunt animals and ride far through deserted regions with few men. You are leaving so much behind, your land and your people. You ride often in regions which are only a short distance from where your enemies, King Solomon and his men, ride. He is no less of a hunter than you. Stay rather at home and protect your land. You may gain great misfortune from your hunting if you don't stop." And Iron answered, "Lady, that is my greatest pleasure, the hunting of animals, and I certainly don't intend to stop. I don't fear King Solomon or his men, and it doesn't seem worse to hunt in his lands than in mine." And they ended this conversation, and the queen became very angry. It was in the winter, and new snow had fallen. Early the next morning, the Earl got out of his bed and went to eat, and called his hunters. And when the Earl had just gotten up, his wife also got up and left the castle. A short distance from the castle stood a fair linden tree. She went under the tree and took off all her clothes. She spread out her arms and fell full length into the snow. Then she stood up and put her clothes on. She saw her image in the snow and all the signs that she had come there. She went to the castle, to the place where her husband was sitting at table. She spoke. "Why are you eating so early, sir? What do you intend to do?" And the Earl answered, "Lady, I shall ride out into the forest and hunt animals, as I am accustomed to." And she said, "Why do you want to ride out into the deserted regions and not hunt the animals that are here at hand? Then you could ride home in the evening and sleep in your bed." The Earl answered, "There are no animals near the castle that are appropriate for hunting. Small animals run here, and I don't want to turn my dogs on them." Isolde answered, "Sir, there are animals that run around the castle here, and you cannot ride into the deserted regions and find better hunting than that, if you will accept it. I saw the best animal of all here when I went out of the castle, and if you hurry, you can still capture that animal if you wish to hunt it. Your horse won't get sweaty for its sake, and you won't lose your dogs, and you will be able to capture it alone if you wish to. If you don't want to hunt it, then I will tell you for certain that another man will hunt it." The Earl stood up immediately and went with her out of the castle to the linden tree. The Queen said, "Sir, look here, where the animal has been, and think what animal that might have been." The Earl looked at the snow at the place where the woman had lain in the snow. The lady spoke. "Sir, look now, if you have ever seen anything of that animal. If you don't hunt it, then another man will hunt it." And the Earl spoke. "Lady, no other man than I shall hunt that animal." And he turned back to the castle and called his men, saying that they should take down their saddles and tie up their dogs. He did not wish to ride out now. Earl Iron seemed to have underestimated his wife's cleverness and power. But in the next episode, there's going to be a new hunt and a forest called Waldslang Forest, as well as a promise in part 44 of the Thidrekssaga. So thanks for tuning in, and see you again next time, back here in the Hall of Sagenheim.